G'day, my name is David and I love my veggie gardening. Just wanted to do a quick tour, quick run through of my vegetable patches. I have two patches. One's 25 by 5 and another 18 by 18. And this is December 2021 in Melbourne, Australia, just into beginning of summer. So to start with, I've got 3 rows. On my right here is a Bitzer potato bed. When I say Bitzer, there's 7 or 8 different varieties of potatoes in here. They just perpetually grow here. No matter how hard I try to pull every potato out, they come back each year. So there's lots of different varieties, Kiflers, Cannabecks, supermarket scraps, leftover bits and pieces. I just let them do their thing at the end of the season to come along and whip out the potatoes. Middle row, these are my artichokes. These guys just grow, basically annual. They continually grow all year round. I cut them off at the end of the season when they die back, but in the ground there is a rhizome that comes back each spring, and we get crops of these beautiful artichokes. So I'll be knocking that off tonight to have for dinner. I'll be taking this one off up the top there as well for dinner. There's quite a few more down. There's 2 different types of artichokes here. There's just a standard artichoke, and then there's a purple artichoke. So you'll see a difference in size, in shape, compared to these ones down here. These ones are more of a tulip shape. These are more of a ball shape. Don't have to do much with artichokes. Just each year put a bit of fertiliser down, and they just come back every year. Fantastic crop to have, artichokes. Steam them, do all sorts of things with them. We steam them and dunk them in butter and eat them. Just amazing. On my right here, obviously beetroot. These guys are coming along nicely. So we'll be roasting these up with roast veggies and roast chickens, pickling some of them. This is the other variety, different variety of artichoke that has more, like I said, more of a tulip shape. Absolutely amazing, beautiful to eat. Iceberg lettuce. Had some dramas this year with the lettuce this season. We lost a few, just way too wet in Melbourne. They just rotted off at the ground, the roots rotted, but these guys have survived. They're going to be, these are all ready to be harvested and eaten. In the middle here, we've got several different varieties of tomato, and between the tomatoes, we've got going in here some different herbs. So that one's some coriander in between these. So all sorts of different tomatoes. You may notice these cords attached to my tomatoes. So I tie a knot to the stem, wind the cord up, and just tie it to an overhead beam. And then every time I come down, I just put another couple more winds around the tomato to support it. And this will grow all the way up to the top here. No worries. Got some Broccolini doing its thing. It's kind of not really the right season for Broccolini, but we'll knock a few of these heads off every few days and eat those. Cucumbers. These are Richmond green apple cucumbers that we have here. And there's a little row in front of it of carrots coming up. More tomatoes here, all different varieties. If I see a tag, I'll point out what they may be. This jungle here is actually radish. Need to be pulling these out. Some for a salad tonight, I think. These radish grow real quick. you can put the seeds in for these, and they'll be up within a few days. They'll come up, and you'll be able to start harvesting them within 4 weeks. Really cool. Behind these Richmond green apple cucumbers, in behind there we have some Lebanese cucumbers. So they're doing their thing. So these are just old frames that were on the property. I like to use what I've got. Try not to spend money. Reuse, recycle. Spring onions in front of my Lebanese cucumbers. What I like to do with these guys, when I plant my onions, I actually plant them in clumps. I'll just dump in a handful of 10 to 15, maybe even more seeds in a clump. I leave a space and then a clump, space and clump. And what this enables me to do is when I fancy some onions for a salad, I just grab that whole clump, pull that out, rinse it, and take it up. And next time I come down in another week's time when I need more onions, just grab another clump, and it just makes it really easy for me for managing. It's also easy to manage for weeds. You can just come along and take the weeds out between. Onions don't like to compete, so we can very quickly knock out the weeds and keep the onions happy. Here's a tag. We've got grossless. There's grossless tomatoes in here on this side. There's another tag on the other side over there. We'll have a look at that when we get round. Button squash. So we've got a couple of button squash plants here. Going crazy. So we're going to get a heap of button squash off of those. These bad boys are my zucchinis, blackjack zucchinis. So I'll be definitely taking a few of those for dinner tonight. This guy doesn't look too happy, but that's avocado. It's just sprung up in our compost heap. Avocado, a loquat tree I've grown from seed. Some more tomatoes. This year in total I've planted over 140 tomato plants. Come back this way. This bed here, I've set up a bed, one bed in the middle, dedicated here to potatoes. So we have got 4 different varieties, I think, from memory. There are, believe it or not, in here tags that will tell me what I have planted. Yep, Cannabet. And come a little bit further, and there is other tags in here, believe it or not. But 4 different varieties, big guys, small guys, all sorts of potatoes. So this is the first year I've actually ever tried growing potatoes. There's another tag. Dutch cream. I've dug proper furrows, put potatoes in, put in some superphosphate fertiliser, then mounded potatoes, and they have just gone crazy. Cross over to the far side. So down the end, if I can get through these potatoes, down the end here is my asparagus bed. So I started this bed, 6 years ago, and it's I put in crowns, planted them in, fertilised them, never harvested for the first few years, first 2-3 years, and never harvested. And now every year the spears come up. There's one there, and we harvest them when they're ready. These guys, asparagus, these guys will grow 1 inch a day. When they start to thin out, I just let them go to fern. So that's an asparagus fern. And on the end there is a flower pod. You'll get seeds on these. So these thinner, wispier ones I tend to not harvest. Towards the end, when we get to about January, February, we're absolutely sick of eating asparagus. I wouldn't think it was possible, but you do get sick of it after eating it 3 times a week, every week. We let it go to fern like this so that it puts energy back into its roots, into its crown in the ground, so it'll survive through winter, and then we'll get spears again next spring. Some more broccolini. Undercover here we have some strawberries. So these guys were given to me by a butler mate in Sydney, in Brisbane, Stephen Zeba, and there's some that are ready to be picked. Coming back up here, this is my bean trellis. So 2 different kinds, three different kinds of beans. There's just a standard green climbing bean. The first ones here are a vitalis. They're a big flat bean that you get that's about 8 to 10 inches long. We have the climbing beans in the middle, and at the far end there we have purple king beans. Again, just another old frame that was on the property that we found, reuse, recycle. Some old bamboo. Those truss up. These beans will now climb all the way up here, and I can just go along and pick the beans off as they hang underneath here. Coriander in front of the beans. Kind of like doing this companion planting. I'm not sure whether it really helps with the pests. I've got a real bad problem here with whitefly at the moment. Some coriander here that's gone to seed. I'll knock that down. More coriander. The tomatoes. So here we've got some Roma cherries. So these are a new one I've grown this year. They're like a salad eating tomatoes. So it's a cherry Roma on the end there. Here's some more grossness at the end there. But I often get asked about this black plastic. What's the idea behind this black plastic? And it does a number of things for me. First and foremost, as you can see, it helps me massively reduce the amount of weeding I have to do. I hate weeding, but it makes it infinitely easier to weed. You know, the amount of weeds that can come up are a very small percentage in these gaps. So maintenance, I can whip through here on a Saturday morning and knock these weeds down very quickly to keep the competition down for the plants. The second thing that it does is for plants like tomatoes, corn, jalapenos, capsicums, cucumbers, those sort of plants, they love warm soil. So here in Melbourne, I can plant my plants out in September when it's still relatively cool, because the black plastic warms the soil up sooner, so I can extend my growing season. So that's the second thing that the plastic does. And this is actually weed matting, so it lets moisture through, lets rain through very easy. It's a cheap one I bought off of eBay. I find the cheaper the better. This has lasted about 6 years continual use outdoors and hasn't broken down. But the third thing it does is it helps keep the moisture, retains the moisture in there once it does rain and it goes through the plastic. So those 3 things just make it infinitely easier for me. It's probably not for everybody, but for my style of gardening, I like this plastic. Just makes it more enjoyable. I can spend more time playing with my plants rather than pulling weeds out, which I just despise. Continuing up the right hand side, got some Ford hook spinach coming along nicely. So growing that from seed from last year's crop, and coming along nicely. Tomatoes, another artichoke, another one. We're going to be eating some artichoke tonight, I think. Some parsley that's going to seed, and this one here is my blackberry. And before you go, oh my god, blackberry, how can you do that? This is a variety, it's a thornless variety of blackberry, so no thorns on it. Prolific grower. I keep a very close eye on it and don't let it get away. If you get one of these like branches that throws out, up here's an example, these branches that it throws out, when that touches the ground over there, it'll throw a mass of roots out and then it'll shoot again. This thing will take off if you let it take off. So I keep it here all pretty much trussed up. Bought the plant from the thornless plant from Bunnings as a thing to play with, because we like our blackberries and making blackberry jam and eating the berries fresh. But the first 2 years the fruit was just terrible. It was bitter, it was sour, it was like eating a lemon on steroids. But then in the 3rd year I said to the plant that I was going to pull it out if the fruit didn't improve, and it proves to me that plants do listen to you, because in the 3rd year the fruit was fantastic, and in the 4th year it was unbelievable. So talk to your plants. Talk to your plants. So that's the end of the tour of my vegetable patch number 1. I'm going to do the second one shortly. Keep an eye out.